Hey, thanks for tuning in to Unfair Sports. While you're here, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Appreciate it. I'm gonna dive right in. I gotta dive right in. The news hit us. We got hit with some news. You understand me? We hit with news. What's that news we got hit with? Tom Brady's back. So, the GOAT himself has decided to make his valiant return to football. And all it took was him to spend time with his family and realize that is not where he wanted to be. So Tom put out a statement on his Twitter account, and I caught it right at that moment, 6:13 Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
These past 2 months, I realized my place is still on the field and not in the stands. That time will come, but it's not now. I love my teammates and I love my supportive family. They make it all possible. I'm coming back for my 23rd season in Tampa. Unfinished business, LFG, which means let's go. Go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Yes.
So, of course, I'm hyped because that means my Buccaneers will not be god-awful next season.
Yeah, mine either. Yes.
My Bucs, as I'm the only Buccaneers fan here on this podcast.
T-shirt, certificate.
Do not listen to Jimmy. Jimmy pretends like he's a Bucs fan, and he terrorizes me as a Buccaneers fan because he knows I've, for years, gone through pain and suffering, and he does this just to mess with me.
I do not. Would I do something like that? As long as I've known you, would I do something like that? I would not do anything like that.
Yes.
I am a genuine. I go back to the Mike Glennon days of Tampa Bay fandom, and I know you go back further than that.
That's when the patronizing started, Jimmy. You started patronizing me at that point. But we're not talking about the flying Mike Glennons and the neck beard. We're talking about Thomas, whatever Edward, the 14 names he's got.
Patrick, Brady Jr.
Exactly. We're talking about Tom Brady and how the Buccaneers have got it. So I think this is what's interesting to me with it. There's no coincidence as to when he decided to do this. He did this March 13th, which is what? The day before legalized tampering begins. When teams can actually start signing contracts with players, coming to terms and conditions before actually signing these deals. So he sent a note out basically to every team. He put them all on notice. And he also let his teammates know, hey, I'm coming back. So if y'all trying to put this thing one more time, if some of y'all want to take a little bit of a haircut along with my haircut, we can go ahead and make this thing happen. So he's showing us that he wants to go for a ring, and he let everybody know. So, Jimmy, I have to ask you this question now. Mm-hmm. Do you see the Buccaneers making it back to a Super Bowl? Because I got one stat for you. Last 7 years, Tom Brady, right?
Yes.
Super Bowl, lost in the playoffs. Super Bowl, lost in the playoffs. Super Bowl, and this year was lost in the playoffs. So there's a chance that next year could be what? Super Bowl victory. You think the Buccaneers got a chance of keeping the Brady streak going?
I think the Buccaneers have a fantastic chance of doing that. I want to go back a second before I talk more about that, about why it was that it was reported. I think it was Schefter who said he was going to retire. Then it was like, no, I haven't made a decision. Then the decision is I am going to retire. And now 40 days later from retirement, one of the shortest retirements ever in the history of the NFL, he is coming back. One of the things that his dad talked about around the time where it was questionable as to whether or not he was going to retire was that his son was experiencing pressure from outside sources, which I was thinking about, okay, who would those outside sources be? Who on the planet outside of the teams that he constantly beats, which is just about everybody, would want him to retire? I know the Bucs organization would want him to retire. I know his parents don't want him to retire. I know his agent and his trainer don't want him to retire. So my hypothesis was, like a lot of people, was that it was Giselle, his wife, who had talked about him retiring for a good 4 to 5 years. So that's not really an outside source. I mean, that's as close to Tom Brady as you can get. But I think what happened was maybe it was her, maybe it was several other individuals in his family. He went ahead, he caved in, he decided to retire. I mean, he's accomplished everything. His legacy is set. He had every reason to retire. But I think after that, he became this sort of just somewhat depressed, mopey sort of shell of himself as he entered into retirement, because typically it's his family and his football, just constantly, each one. So without that piece, without his one of his first passions in life, going back to when he was a kid, he wasn't the same. The people around him could see that he needed this, that the fire was still lit within him, like he said, and that he needed to come back. So I think that it took some time on his part in order to convince his wife and his family that this was the best decision for him. And like he said, the time will come for me to be in the stands, but the time is not now. And why would it, Jay? Because he just came off of a 5,300 yard, 43 touchdown, 12 interception season. And honestly, that game against the Rams, they should have won that game. I mean, the Rams, like a lot of Super Bowl winning teams, got lucky again and again and again, and you have to in order to win a Super Bowl. But they should have won that matchup. They would have beaten my 49ers, and then they would have – he's definitely not losing to a second-year quarterback in Joe Burrow either. So they were truly closer than just about anybody to, one break or two, you win the championship. So that, in addition to what I said earlier, the fire is still lit. He can still play, and he has no fear of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is probably the one who's pissed off the most about him coming back. Russell Wilson is in the AFC. The 49ers are going to be starting a second-year quarterback, so they're not quite ready. So I really don't see many formidable obstacles in the way of this Buccaneers team going back to the Super Bowl. Yes, they got to work free agency, draft, has some O-line losses, etc. But I think with Tom Brady, with the energy, with the experience, the leadership, and just the GOATness that he provides our organization, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I don't see any reason why they cannot make it back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The one thing, though, is that there is something actually for Tom Brady to accomplish this year. Mm-hmm. He can be the oldest quarterback to start and win a Super Bowl at 45 years old. So he's got something that he can go after. He's got something he wants to accomplish, because he said this before. He wanted to play quarterback at 45 years old, and now he has the opportunity. And I think that's the last milestone on in his book of records that he wants to hold, is that one. And so now he has the capabilities to do it. Boom, we are there. And so, yeah, I think you're right. Aaron Rodgers is probably pissed. Because what's going to happen is that the Packers are going to get home field advantage again in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So in January, it's going to be like negative degrees. Tom knows exactly what to do in there. Not throw the ball super hard or super far, and just hand the ball off properly. And they're going to beat them again. I mean, Green Bay is going to keep losing every year until they either A, don't have home field advantage, or B, they build a dome. I'm going to keep saying it out loud just so somebody figures that part out. But no, I do agree with you, though. There's those outside pieces that, I mean, Giselle doesn't want him to play anymore. But at the same time, Tom does a really good job of protecting himself. I feel like the way Tom plays, similar to where, honestly, like Lamar Jackson, maybe even Russell Wilson, they do a really good job of that. And Kyler Murray, that quarterback stuff, the Patrick Mahomes, even though Mahomes has been dealing with a few injuries as of late, they do a good job of avoiding getting taken out or getting really, really hit hard, head injury, stuff like that. Even I've seen Mahomes get that one concussion at one game. Woo, Lord. He just basically just like looked dazed the whole time. And so now Tom is doing better about protecting himself. And so I think that will help long term. But at the same time, I'm excited for my Bucs because we get, like I said, we are not going to be mediocre. There was reports that we were looking at a few quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield was one of them, and Jameis Winston. I wasn't balking at either, because I think that either can do fine with Arians now, especially since Jameis has grown up in a system that is built to teach a quarterback how to be a good quarterback. And with Sean Payton gone, Saints is going to be trash anyway for the next couple of years until they figure it all out again. But this gives us the reins of the NFC South. We should win our division. And like you said, we were on the trajectory to win it all. Our problem was injuries. If everybody didn't get hurt, it was ours. So with that, Tampa, we got a chance for another Super Bowl. I'm uber excited. Let's see what happens.
Let me mention this to you real quick. Do you think that he potentially plays beyond this year? Because I think another piece of the pie in terms of what really motivated him to come back is being the greatest winner in the history of the sport, but in your last game going out, for lack of a better phrase, a loser. losing to a team that you know you should not have lost to, that you believe that you were better than, against a quarterback that you were better than. So if for whatever reason they go into this season and they don't quite get there, they don't, win the Super Bowl, could you see him coming back? Because I think part of what he wants too is he wants, seeing Elway, seeing Peyton Manning, several other quarterbacks
Leave on
go
top.
out as champions, even though their arms were about to fall off, still going out as a champion, going out as the very thing that he is, that he represents. I think could make it to where if he doesn't get it done this season, he could end up playing till he's 46 or 47, because I project, and they say that people at some point, when Father Time catches up to you, you fall off of a cliff quickly. So if he's coming off of a 5,300 yard, 40 touchdown season, then it's falling off the cliff for Tom Brady in a year or two means 4,300 yards and 35 touchdowns. That's still better than 90% of the quarterbacks who have jobs right now. So I think it's possible we could see him beyond 45, because each year is a new record. He's setting records for 45-year-olds, then 46-year-olds, 47-year-olds that won't be broken for decades. So I think he could be back beyond this season.
I don't see it. I think at a certain point he's going to have to realize how bad that roster is going to eventually get, because it can't pay everybody, and everybody ain't going to keep taking haircuts just to be around. So I think that limits him to probably this year. I think it limits him to this year, maybe next, but I'm thinking this year. So.